My husband yelled at 4 a.m., "Stop interrogating me. You don't own me." I replied quietly, "You're right." That was the last conversation we ever had. My name is Dr. Elena Whitmore. I'm 36 years old now, single, and I work as a physician assistant in a busy urban hospital. 6 years ago, I was 30, married for 4 years. I thought I had my whole life mapped out in careful, color-coded plans. Daniel and I met in college. He studied business management. I was pre-med, always buried in anatomy textbooks and caffeine. He used to call me home. Said I made the chaos of his mind quiet. We were that couple people rooted for. The steady ones. The predictable success story. We got married right after I finished my PA program. Moved into a decent apartment with 2 thin walls and a view of the parking lot. Adopted a golden retriever we named Milo. We hosted dinner parties with mismatched plates and cheap wine. Talked about buying a house. Talked about kids in a few years. Talked about growing old in a way that felt certain. For the first 2 years, we were good. Not perfect, but good. We argued about dishes and schedules and whose turn it was to walk Milo. Normal things. Fixable things. Then Daniel got promoted. Regional operations manager. More responsibility. Bigger clients. A team under him. I was proud. Genuinely proud. I remember hugging him in the kitchen when he told me, flour still on my hands from baking something celebratory. "You deserve this," I said. "I'm doing this for us," he replied, kissing my forehead. That was the first shift. The word us slowly becoming him. The longer hours started almost immediately. After-work drinks, networking dinners, weekend strategy retreats, conferences that required overnight stays. At first, I didn't question it. Ambition demands sacrifice. I worked hospital shifts. I understood exhaustion. But around month 3, something subtle changed. He started coming home after midnight, sometimes later. He smelled like whiskey and perfume, not mine. Daniel had never liked perfume before, said it gave him headaches. Suddenly, he didn't notice it. His phone was always face down. The password changed. He began taking calls in the hallway, shutting the bedroom door behind him. When I asked about his day, his answers became fog. "Just work stuff." "You wouldn't get it. It's complicated." I tried to tell myself I was being paranoid. Hospitals teach you worst-case thinking. I didn't want to diagnose my marriage. One night, I said gently, "I feel like we don't talk anymore, like you're somewhere else, even when you're here." He sighed like I'd accused him of something unreasonable. "I'm working hard. Sorry if that's not enough for you." "That's not what I meant. I miss you. I miss us." "Maybe if you weren't so needy, we'd be fine." Needy. The word lodged somewhere under my ribs. Needy for wanting dinner together? Needy for wondering if my husband would come home before sunrise? Needy for asking who he was becoming? The pattern deepened. I'd stay up on the couch pretending to watch TV while checking the time every 3 minutes. He'd stumble in past midnight, sometimes 1 o'clock, sometimes 2 o'clock. Brush past me. Lock himself in the bathroom for 20 minutes. Shower running long after he'd already showered that morning. Some nights he didn't come home at all. At 2:13 a.m., my phone would buzz. Crashing at a colleague's place, too much to drink, don't wait up. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him. But something inside me, that quiet, stubborn intuition, kept whispering, this isn't just work. 8 months into his promotion, I stopped sleeping altogether. That Friday night, he texted at 11:02 p.m. Running late, big client dinner. By 1 a.m., nothing. By 2:30, my calls went to voicemail. By 3:15, my stomach felt like glass. He walked in at 3:47 a.m. I was sitting in the living room, lights off except for one lamp. Milo lifted his head but didn't bark. "Where were you?" I asked. My voice surprised me. Steady, almost calm. "Out with the team, I told you. You said you'd be late, not gone all night." "It's not all night, it's barely 4 o'clock. You couldn't text? Couldn't call?" He dropped his keys on the counter. My phone died. "You couldn't borrow someone's phone? Find a charger?" He rolled his eyes. "Oh my God, here we go." "I'm not interrogating you. I'm asking why my husband didn't come home for 5 hours." "Because I was having fun," he snapped. "Because I was actually enjoying myself instead of coming home to this." "To what?" "To you sitting here waiting like some—" He stopped himself. "Like some what?" I asked quietly. He exhaled sharply. "You're suffocating me, Elena. Every day, it's where are you? What are you doing? When are you coming home? I can't breathe." "I asked because you're never here anymore. I'm building a career. I'm sorry if that threatens you." "It doesn't threaten me. It scares me." "Why?" "Because you've changed. And you won't tell me why. Nothing is going on. Is there someone else? The room went still. He froze. Not dramatically. Just enough. What did you just say? I asked if there's someone else. His face twisted. Anger first, then something else I couldn't name. Unbelievable. You're accusing me of cheating? I'm asking. No, you're accusing. You're standing here at 4 o'clock in the morning acting like you own me. Like I owe you an explanation for every second of my life. I don't want ownership, I want honesty. Stop interrogating me. You don't own me. Something inside me snapped, not loudly, not violently, just quietly, like a thread stretched too thin, finally giving way. You're right, I said. He blinked. I don't own you. I never wanted to. I just wanted a partner who cared enough to come home. For a second, I thought he might soften, might say something real, might admit something. Instead, his expression hardened. I'm going to bed. I have work in the morning. He walked past me. I stood there as the sky outside began to lighten, gray turning to pale blue, the world waking up. And I realized something terrifyingly clear. I was done. Not angry. Done. Not seeking revenge. Done. Exhausted, empty, done. While he locked himself in the bathroom, again, I walked into the bedroom and pulled out a duffel bag. Clothes, toiletries, laptop, work badge, charger. Milo watched me from the doorway, tail low. I didn't leave a note, didn't send a text. I walked out at 4:18 a.m., the sun barely rising, the air cold against my face. My phone started buzzing before I even reached the car. I didn't look at it. For the first time in months, I felt something close to clarity. 6 years later, that moment still feels like the exact second my life split in two. The woman who kept asking for answers, and the woman who finally stopped. I slept 2 hours on my friend Claire's couch. 2 fractured, shallow hours filled with the phantom sound of Daniel's key in the lock. When I finally opened my eyes, sunlight was cutting through the blinds. My phone was face down on the coffee table. I already knew what I'd see before I turned it over. 17 missed calls, 32 text messages. They followed a predictable emotional arc. First phase, where are you? Are you serious right now? Pick up the phone, Elena. Second phase, okay. I'm sorry I yelled. You made your point. Come home so we can talk. This is ridiculous. Final phase, fine, if this is how you want it to be. You're overreacting. Don't expect me to beg. I stared at the screen for a long time. No mention of come back because I love you. No mention of please don't leave. Just control dressed up as pride. Claire came into the kitchen, handed me coffee without asking questions. She'd known me since undergrad, knew my tells. The quiet ones were always the most dangerous. So, she said gently, are you leaving him? I nodded. She didn't look surprised. You think he's cheating? The word hung in the air like smoke. Did I? I thought about the late nights, the bathroom doors, the perfume that wasn't mine, the way he'd looked at me when I asked. Yes, I said finally. I think he is. Do you want proof? That question felt heavier than the first. Proof would mean investigation, screenshots, private investigators, confirmation. But here was the truth no one talks about. When trust dies, proof doesn't resurrect it. I'd already left. I'd already felt the snap. No, I said. It doesn't matter anymore. Even if he's not. He's already gone. Claire squeezed my hand. That week passed in a blur of practical decisions. I found a small studio apartment closer to the hospital. Signed the lease without decorating dreams. Just space. Just quiet. I filed for divorce 2 weeks after I walked out. The papers were served to Daniel at his office. That part wasn't intentional. It was simply how the system worked. He called immediately. I answered. Elena, are you out of your mind? His voice wasn't angry this time. It was panicked. You're divorcing me over one fight? One fight? I repeated softly. You left without a word. You humiliated me. I humiliated you. You could have talked to me. I tried, I said, for 8 months. Silence. You're blowing this out of proportion. Am I? Yes. You let your insecurity destroy our marriage. The word landed the same way Needy had. Insecurity. Gaslighting is subtle when you're inside it. It feels like self-doubt. You didn't come home, I said evenly. You locked yourself in bathrooms at 4 a.m. You changed passwords. You disappeared. That doesn't mean I was cheating. So you weren't? Another silence. It was slight, but it was there. That's not the point, he said finally. It was exactly the point. If you do this, he warned, his voice turning cold, we're done forever. That's what divorce means. You'll regret this, he said. When you're alone and you realize you threw away 4 years because you couldn't handle my success. Maybe that line would have worked on the version of me from 6 months earlier. But something had shifted. Maybe, I replied, but I'll regret staying more. I hung up. He called back 3 times. I blocked his number. The divorce finalized 4 months later. He didn't contest it. No dramatic courtroom battle. No begging. No grand confessions. We split what little we had. He kept the apartment lease. I took Milo. He hadn't bonded with him much anyway. Legally, it was clean. Emotionally, it was like detox. The first month alone in the studio felt cavernous. Every creak in the walls sounded like abandonment. I kept expecting to feel overwhelming grief. Instead, I felt quiet. Like someone had turned off a constant, high-pitched noise I hadn't realized was there. I threw myself into work. Extra shifts, overtime, night rotations no one else wanted. I volunteered for additional certifications, train a new staff. The hospital became my refuge. Patients don't care if your marriage collapsed. They care if you can read their labs correctly, if you can stabilize them, if you can explain a diagnosis without making them panic. Competence is grounding. I heard through mutual friends that Daniel had moved on quickly. 3 months after the divorce finalized, he was publicly dating someone from his office. Of course, they got engaged within a year. When Claire told me, I waited for a reaction. Anger, vindication, jealousy. Nothing came, just a distant, detached thought. That tracks. I dated occasionally. First dates always circle back to the same question. So, why did your marriage end? There's no graceful way to answer that. If you're honest, you sound bitter. If you're vague, you sound evasive. Usually I said we grew apart. It wasn't a lie. He grew into someone who stayed out until dawn, and I grew into someone who stopped waiting. 2 years passed like that. Work, home, Milo aging beside me. Therapy sessions where I unpacked words like needy and insecure and realized how easily they'd reshaped my sense of self. By year 4 post-divorce, I wasn't healing anymore. I was stable, routine, predictable, peaceful. I wasn't looking for love, but I wasn't afraid of it either. I existed in that middle ground, the quiet plateau after a storm. Then year 6 happened, and the past walked back into my life without warning. It was a Tuesday, routine clinic day, nothing dramatic, post-op follow-ups, medication adjustments, blood pressure checks, the predictable rhythm of outpatient care. By year 6 after my divorce, my life ran on structure. Wake up, walk Milo, coffee, hospital, charting, home, quiet. No chaos, no 4 a.m. arguments, no wondering where someone was. Around 2:07 p.m., one of the nurses, Jenna, leaned into my doorway. Hey, can you squeeze in a walk-in? Just needs a BP check and a clearance form signed for daycare enrollment. Should be quick. Sure, put him in room 3. I grabbed the tablet with the intake forms and glanced at the name. Daniel Harper. It didn't register at first. Harper is common. Daniel is common. My brain didn't connect the dots. I walked into the exam room, eyes still on the screen. Hi, I'm just going to check your blood pressure real quick. I looked up, and time fractured. He was sitting on the exam table, frozen, face drained of color, eyes locked on mine like I was something unreal. For exactly 3 seconds, my brain refused to compute. Then professional training kicked in. Neutral expression, steady tone. Good afternoon, I said calmly. Let's get your vitals. He swallowed. Elena. My name sounded foreign in his mouth. Mr. Harper, I replied evenly. Jenna came in behind me, cheerful and oblivious. You two know each other? She asked lightly as she wrapped the cuff around his arm. I met his eyes. Let the silence stretch just long enough to thicken the air. We used to, I said. Jenna's smile faltered almost imperceptibly. She sensed it, the tension, even if she didn't understand it. 120 over 78, she said quickly. Nice and normal. I'll, let you finish up. The door clicked shut. We were alone. 6 years condensed into a sterile white room that smelled faintly of disinfectant. I didn't know you worked here, Daniel said. His voice had lost its old sharpness. It sounded smaller. 6 years now. My primary care office is upstairs. They said I could get the form done here instead of scheduling another appointment. It's fine, I said. I'll sign it. I focused on the tablet. Name, date of birth, medical history. He had aged. Not dramatically. 6 years doesn't transform someone, but there were fine lines at the corners of his eyes. A tiredness around his mouth, his hair slightly thinner at the temples. He looked heavier somehow. How have you been? He asked. 6 years of silence, and that was his opening line. Good, I said simply. You? He hesitated. I'm okay. I waited. I got married, he added quickly. We have a daughter now. She's 3. That's why I need the clearance form. The words landed without impact. Married. Daughter. I nodded. Congratulations. And I meant it. There was no bitterness in my voice, no sarcasm, just acknowledgement. He studied my face like he was searching for something. Anger, maybe. Regret. He wouldn't find it. I always wondered. He started, then stopped. I continued typing. Silence pressed between us again. Finally, he exhaled. I'm sorry. I didn't look up. For how things ended, he continued. For how I treated you. I set the tablet down slowly. Okay. That was it. Just okay. His brow furrowed. That's all you're going to say? What would you like me to say? I don't know. Something. It was 6 years ago, Daniel. That doesn't erase it. No, I agreed. It doesn't. His jaw tightened slightly. I've thought about reaching out, he admitted, a lot of times. You didn't. I didn't think you'd want to hear from me. He wasn't wrong. I picked up the tablet again. Is there anything else medically relevant? I asked, returning to clinical neutrality. He flinched at the shift. Elena? Yes? I was seeing someone. There it was. No surprise, just confirmation. During those last few months, he continued quietly. You were right. I nodded once. I know. His eyes widened slightly. How? Because I'm not an idiot, I said calmly. And because you just confirmed it. He ran a hand through his hair. It started a couple months after my promotion. My boss. Of course. It wasn't supposed to, he rushed on. It just... You don't need to explain the mechanics of an affair to me, I said gently but firmly. He swallowed. She's not the one I married, he added quickly. That ended about a year after we divorced. I married someone else. Good for you. He studied me again. Are you seeing anyone? That's not relevant to your daycare form. He gave a weak, almost embarrassed nod. I finished signing the document, printed it from the wall-mounted unit, and handed it to him. You're all set. Valid for 90 days. He took the paper, hands not entirely steady. Thank you. I moved toward the door. Elena, wait. My hand paused on the handle. Can we talk? He asked. Actually talk. Maybe get coffee? Just for a few minutes. I turned back fully this time. Really looked at him. He didn't look triumphant. He didn't look arrogant. He looked like someone carrying something heavy. Why? I asked. Because I owe you a real apology. And an explanation. For what? I said quietly. Your closure? No, for yours. I almost laughed at that. I got closure the morning I left. Please, he said. Just one conversation. 30 minutes. I should have said no. I should have walked out and let him sit alone with his guilt. But curiosity is a powerful thing. And sometimes peace is strongest when tested. There's a cafe in the lobby, I said finally. 20 minutes. That's all I have. Relief flickered across his face, quick and fragile. We walked out of the exam room together. Two strangers who used to share a bed. And for the first time in 6 years, I felt something stir. Not love. Not anger. Just the faintest curiosity about who he had become. The hospital cafe hadn't changed in 6 years. Same muted lighting, same hum of espresso machines, same uncomfortable metal chairs that made long conversations impossible. We sat across from each other like acquaintances at a networking event. 2 coffees between us, neither of us really wanted. He started talking before I even settled fully into my chair. Like if he paused, he'd lose the nerve. Her name was Vanessa, he said. Of course it was. My boss, he continued. It started about 2 months after my promotion. Late meetings, strategy sessions. She made me feel important. I didn't react. He laughed softly, bitter at himself. I know how that sounds. Yes, I said evenly. You do. When you're working 70-hour weeks and someone keeps telling you how brilliant you are, how you're the only one who understands her vision, it gets in your head. I told you I was proud of you, I reminded him. You did. I supported every late night, every conference, every networking dinner. I know. Until I stopped being convenient, I added quietly. He looked down at his coffee. That's not fair. No? I tilted my head slightly. Then tell me what is. He exhaled slowly. I started pulling away because I felt guilty. Every time you asked where I was, I felt like you could see right through me. So I got defensive. I made you the problem. There it was. Gaslighting. Wrapped in hindsight. You called me needy, I said. His eyes closed briefly. I remember. You called me insecure. I was projecting. You made me question my sanity. He nodded. I know. The honesty didn't sting the way it used to. It just confirmed what I'd already rebuilt inside myself. That night, he continued, voice lower now, the 4 a.m. fight. I had been with her. I let the silence absorb that. There was an industry event, hotel bar afterward. Everyone left around midnight. We didn't. He didn't look at me when he said the next part. We went up to her room. I didn't need more detail. When I got home and you asked if there was someone else, I could have told you the truth. It would have been horrible, but at least it would have been honest. Yes, I said. But I panicked. I didn't want to lose you, and I didn't want to lose her, so I chose the coward's route. You chose yourself, I corrected calmly. He didn't argue. I told myself it was temporary, he continued, that I'd end it, that I could fix everything before you found out. And instead you made me feel crazy. His jaw tightened. I know. We sat in silence for a moment. The espresso machine hissed in the background. A nurse laughed somewhere near the counter. Life moved on around us. Why now? I asked finally. Why tell me this now? He rubbed his palms together nervously. Because my therapist says I can't move forward until I face what I did. There it was. Therapy. Growth, maybe. And because, I prompted. He hesitated. My wife knows our marriage ended because of my promotion and stress. She doesn't know the full story. So she doesn't know you cheated. She knows I wasn't perfect. That's not the same thing. He flinched. I have a daughter now, he continued quietly, and the thought of someone treating her the way I treated you makes me sick. I need to be better than that. That's good, I said. But being better doesn't erase what you did. I know. Does your wife know about Vanessa? No. Does she know you lied to me for months? No. I held his gaze. You should tell her. His eyes widened slightly. Elena, she deserves to know who she married. That's not fair. I'm not that person anymore. Maybe not, I said calmly, but the foundation of a marriage shouldn't be selective honesty. What if telling her destroys everything? I studied him carefully. That's the risk you took when you cheated. Silence. He looked genuinely torn. I don't want to hurt her. You already are, I replied softly. You just haven't told her yet. That landed. We both knew it. Do you hate me? He asked suddenly. It wasn't defensive. It was almost vulnerable. I considered it. I had hated him. Briefly. Fiercely. In the early months when I couldn't sleep and every song on the radio felt like mockery. But hatred is exhausting. No, I said honestly. I don't. Relief flickered across his face. But I don't feel anything either, I added. That hit harder. You're a chapter, I continued. An important one, but you don't get to be the whole story anymore. His shoulders sagged slightly. I'm sorry, he said again. I believe you. That surprised him. But apology and absolution aren't the same thing. He nodded slowly. I don't expect forgiveness. Good. We sat there for another minute. Two people who once shared everything now struggling to find anything left to say. I checked my watch. I have patience waiting. He nodded. Thank you for listening. I know I don't deserve it. I stood up. Be honest with your wife, I said. If you're really trying to be better. I will, he said. And for the first time, I believed he might. As I walked away, I felt his eyes on my back. I threw the untouched coffee into the trash. And I realized something quietly powerful. He didn't have the ability to hurt me anymore. Not because he hadn't once, but because I no longer needed anything from him. Not an explanation. Not validation. Not revenge. Nothing. And that kind of freedom is louder than any argument at 4 a.m. That conversation in the cafe was 8 months ago. I haven't seen Daniel since. Hospitals are strange ecosystems. Thousands of people passing through the same hallways, rarely colliding twice unless they're meant to. If we've crossed paths again, I didn't notice. After that afternoon, I expected something dramatic. Old wounds reopening, sleepless nights, some delayed, emotional earthquake. Instead, nothing cracked. I went back upstairs, saw 4 more patients, adjusted medications, explained lab results, documented discharge notes, went home, fed Milo, heated leftover pasta, watched half an episode of something forgettable. The world didn't tilt. That was the moment I knew I had actually healed. Not because I forgave him, not because he apologized, but because my nervous system didn't react anymore. Peace isn't fireworks. It's quiet. I did think about what he'd said, about his daughter, about honesty, and about the fact that somewhere out there was a woman building a life with him without knowing the full truth. I didn't reach out. It wasn't my place. But 2 months later, Claire called me. You'll never guess who I ran into, she said. I didn't need to. Daniel? Yeah. Apparently he told his wife about the affair. The whole thing. I absorbed that silently. And? I asked. She took it hard. They're in counseling now, working through it. I leaned back on my couch, Milo's head resting on my knee. How did he look? Tired, Claire said, but serious, like he's actually trying. I surprised myself when I said, I hope they make it. And I meant that too. Growth shouldn't be punished if it's real. Around 4 months after the cafe meeting, I met someone. Not dramatically. No cinematic airport scene, no fate-driven collision. Claire set me up. His name is Ethan, she'd said. He's a middle school history teacher, divorced once, normal, calm, not allergic to communication. I almost declined, but something in me felt open. Ethan wasn't flashy. He didn't dominate conversations or perform confidence. He asked questions and waited for answers. On our 3rd date, he said, You don't have to tell me everything about your marriage. Just tell me what you learned. That question stayed with me. What did I learn? That love without transparency is performance. That being called needy for asking for honesty is manipulation. that silence can be more powerful than screaming. We see each other twice a week. We text daily. Simple things. How was your shift? Did your students survive Monday? There's no guessing game. If he's running late, he tells me. If I'm tired, I say so. No one locks themselves in bathrooms. Last week, we were walking Milo, who is now 13, gray around the muzzle, but still convinced he's a puppy. And Ethan asked gently, "Would you ever get married again?" The old version of me would have panicked at that question. The new version considered it calmly. "Maybe," I said, "with the right person, but not because I'm afraid of being alone." He smiled. "That's the only right reason. No pressure, no urgency. Just two adults building something slowly. That's what it should have been the first time. Two people choosing each other every day. Not one person lying while the other slowly unravels." Sometimes I think back to that morning 6 years ago. 4:18 a.m. Duffel bag over my shoulder. Cold air against my face. I thought I was walking away from failure. I was actually walking toward peace. The biggest plot twist of my life wasn't revenge. It wasn't dramatic closure. It wasn't him showing up desperate and begging. It was indifference. The kind that comes from rebuilding yourself so thoroughly that the person who once shattered you becomes ordinary. A memory. A former patient. Daniel wanted absolution that afternoon in the cafe. He wanted me to tell him it was okay, that I understood, that we could part as something like friends. But here's the truth. I don't owe him forgiveness. I don't owe him comfort. I don't owe him anything. The fact that I don't hate him anymore is generous enough. Milo is asleep at my feet as I say this. 13 years old, the best part of that marriage. Work is still steady, fulfilling. Busy enough to keep my mind sharp, but not so consuming that I disappear into it. My life isn't glamorous. It's stable. And after what I lived through, stability feels like luxury. Sometimes closure isn't dramatic. Sometimes it's just signing a form in an exam room and realizing the person who once had the power to devastate you is now just another name on a chart. 6 years ago, he said, "You don't own me." He was right. I didn't. And now, he doesn't own any part of me either. And that's enough.